outside of drums and metal, founder of RIO, been in the crypto space, for almost 8 years, been following Arweave and permanent storage. I left my job as an enterprise architect in 2020 to start an app called Arweave and really make it easy to leverage permanent storage. And then, we kind of saw some opportunities in the infrastructure space, and that's how we came up with RIO, or what we like to say is a permanent cloud network. And today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about RIO, but also a use case around how DePIN networks can leverage us. And yeah, maybe make it a little bit more practical and show an example. Just wanted to start with a little stat here. To me, this shows that DePIN is a very real thing. I know the acronym might be new, but these kinds of networks are very powerful, and there's a pretty big market for them, right? 32 billion reported by Mataras. And now the really interesting piece, to me at least, is 90% of these DePINs rely on mutable and maybe even centralized infrastructure, and we think that's a problem. So what we're doing is we made a permanent cloud network that acts as, that can act as a data layer for other DePIN networks. We call it a permanent cloud network because it's a network of various services that all live on top of Arweave. Arweave is a decentralized storage network. It's kind of like Bitcoin, but for data. And it serves one sole purpose, storing data indefinitely. You just pay one time to get that data archived. And we've built a cloud services network on top that provides other value-added capabilities, right? As developers, as builders, we know that you need more than just storage to build anything. So our network provides services to discover that data, to read, to write it at scale, to pay in different methods, different cryptocurrencies, to host applications, sites, pages, as well as an entire domain name system to provide resilient, friendly names to access that data. And it's built on top of not just Arweave, but we leverage AO, the hyperparallel computer. Sam Williams, I think, spoke about that before. But yeah, we leverage its smart contract platform to power all of our functionality. As you can see here, there's a lot of different services. I kind of summarized them before, but it is kind of like AWS. In a sense, you have capabilities to manage traffic, route to different nodes. You have identity and access management solutions. There's a whole indexing and querying stack. There's obviously permanent storage, not just for storing base level transactions, but what we call layer 2 transactions, which can go into the scale of millions and billions. And an entire suite of content delivery tools, right, for caching data, rendering rich media, streaming it, and hosting sites and apps. We just looked at a lot of various services, but I wanted to roll them up into some of the key product offerings and protocols that we have. One of them is called Turbo. This is a hosted uploading service and payment service for getting your data onto the permanent cloud. It's very developer friendly. We have great SDKs and tooling. You can pay with Stripe or credit cards, ETH, Sol, the RIO token, and others. Again, trying to make it really easy to get your data on there in an effortless way. The gateway nodes themselves, another key product. We have about 680 of them on the network, and they exist to, resolve that data, serve it out to users, and perform the various value-added services. There is some token economics that are involved. Gateways have to stake the RIO token in order to join this network and participate in data sharing. And those gateways then earn a reward for performing these different actions and keeping that network fast, reliable, and healthy. We have a protocol we released earlier this year called Wayfinder. Think of this as a load balancer / data verification engine that clients and apps can integrate to ensure users can find the data easily and fetch it. One of the key things we're really trying to do is eliminate 404s, right? We're trying to eliminate broken links. Just because we have a network of 680 gateways doesn't mean any single gateway can go offline. So protocols like Wayfinder allow apps to really build resilient connections to this network. So if any one node goes offline, you can still get access to your data or those services. And then finally, we have the Arweave name system. We call this a smart domain name system, and this is one of the things that leverages AO's capabilities. But yeah, we kind of discovered along the way as we were uploading data to Arweave, you get this transaction hash. Similar to your wallet, right? Everyone's ETH or Sol or whatever wallet has this long, non-human readable ID. And we had this idea to match that with a friendly name. Not just a name used for your identity or for your wallet, but a name used for your data or your site or app. So you could buy the name DePIN, and you can resolve that name across any of the gateways on the network. So it's this really resilient domain name system that doesn't have a single point of failure, and that's actually accessible through your browser, unlike maybe some other domain name systems. I want to point out that the RIO gateway is hyperscalable. You can deploy it anywhere, on a Raspberry Pi or in a data center in your house. It's all containerized, very quick to deploy. You can see here some very basic specs. So again, whether you're leveraging your laptop or other decentralized compute networks, it's very easy to get started with an RIO gateway. And you can scale it both horizontally as well as vertically. We tried both, they both work great, and it really comes down to your use case. So these are the minimum specs, but obviously if you're pushing millions of connections through a single node or uploading lots of data, you're gonna need more than this. But we really wanted to have a low barrier of entry for any node operator to quickly join the network, as well as even not join the network. It's not a requirement to do that if you wanna just leverage RIO and have that sovereign access to your data. Now there's lots of use cases for the permanent cloud. Just like with AWS, you can build a lot of different things on it. Here's just a few to list out. So you can host full websites, apps, and games. Again, all accessible through your browser. File storage itself was one of the first use cases for the network. Again, just storing personal information, public or private, in a very easy way. NFTs, digital assets, and now RWAs are starting to pick up steam. I would say that's probably one of the first bigger use cases during the NFT craze. You know, artists didn't want to upload their data to a centralized location, have to keep paying for that even after they've maybe sold those tokens to their community. So, you know, the permanent cloud provides a place for that data to live regardless if that NFT project still exists or not. And we continually have teams migrating over to our network as those, you know, centralized locations go offline. Social networks, another great place to leverage permanent data. That's particularly one in the area of, you know, avoiding censorship. There's a lot of social networks out there where the community members, users are worried about becoming deplatformed or censored. Leveraging a permanent cloud network, you don't get that, right? Your data is spread around the world. No single person controls the network or your identity. So it's a powerful platform for social data. Artificial intelligence is obviously one of the newer things that has come around. We see people storing not just the synthetic or real data inputs that go to AI, but also the outputs, as well as even the LLMs themselves. And that's because this network is built to store data at any size, whether that's, you know, a 1 kilobyte file or a 20 gigabyte LLM. And then of course, DeFi, blockchain, and DePIN data is another strong use case, right? Not every blockchain is built to store the entire state. So there are teams that are archiving old parts of blockchains that, you know, those chains might not have the incentive to keep that data anymore, whereas our network is built for storing it for very long periods of time. So there's been entire teams that are leveraging the permanent cloud for that. Some traction since our mainnet launch earlier this year, just to give some stats. Around 4,000 domain names have been registered so far. 700 or so gateways are live and, you know, spread around the world. Around 800,000 monthly active readers, that's people consuming the data. Last month, there were around 60,000 unique uploaders, people paying for permanent storage. This stat around data uploaded, that's really all time through our hosted service Turbo. About 1/4 of a petabyte, over 20 billion transactions, individual files, and really it's now become the primary way to upload all data to Arweave, and we're, you know, really proud of that. We have a new stat here that I was just able to pull around the data streamed by the network, around 70 terabytes of data accessed just in the last 24 hours. We look at the last 7 days, the cumulative requests made across the network, around 2,200 per second. So people are really rapidly accessing this information. We have various major integrations with many different teams. I don't need to name drop there. Looking at some of the revenue that the network has earned, this is really important to us. We didn't want to make something that was unsustainable in the long run. So looking at the income so far in RIO terms, around 85,000 since we launched mainnet. We've distributed almost 200,000 to our gateway operators. It's important to note that we started, when we launched the network, we increased our emissions as a way to get the first gateway operators online and reward them for these services. That's actually declining after the first year. So I see this as, once things are said and done, we end up with a system that's actually pretty balanced. Obviously, we want more revenue to come in through things like purchasing RNS names, but we didn't want to make something that was unsustainable and something that, didn't give the gateway operators enough funds to actually operate their service. But now let's talk a little bit about DePIN and some of the key benefits for these various networks that are creeping up. One of the important ones is, RIO network, it's chain agnostic. You don't have to have an Arweave wallet to interact with it. Sure, we're Arweave first, but you can still leverage it with Solana, Cosmos wallets, Ethereum wallets, and various other signature types. Pay once, store forever, this one-time fee, right? This concept of I just upload the data. Sure, you pay a little bit more to get that secured indefinitely, but it's there. You as the DePIN operator don't have to worry about continually paying for that uptime, and that storage is immutable. It's spread around the world, can't be changed, right? And you can verify that. So it's really powerful capability to ensure if you are accessing that data 1, 5, 10 years, however many years in the future, you have high assurance that it's the same thing that was uploaded. There's resilient and decentralized access. Again, there's no single point of failure across the network, and it's easy to get your data across any of those nodes. And that's because information stored here is location independent, right? That same piece of data, you access it here versus another node, it's all the same hashes. And of course, it's censorship resistant. No single party can take it offline or affect the network. Okay, so here's a little case study from our partner DRAD. They are a network that is seeking to improve air safety. They have a network of nodes, of people that are around the world that are aggregating flight data, traffic information, and earning rewards for that. And they were having some problems with storing that data. Right? They were having some problems about the reliability of accessing it. I guess they were leveraging other systems where they were having some gaps, and the users couldn't rely on the system to get that data back, right? And this ultimately can cause regulatory concerns for a network like this that has to follow specific standards for accessing that data. On top of that, they weren't able to verify it, right? This is mutable data that they were working with in the past. So how did they know if that was changed or tampered with? There's really no way, right? And I think that's important in the case of air safety because you really need to have high trust in those logs, right? If something happened and you're looking at that in the future, again, you want to make sure it hasn't been tampered with or corrupted. And that kind of leads to the last point around transparency. They didn't want their data to be stored in a specific silo where it maybe couldn't get accessed by other teams or other networks. Because ultimately that could affect development and impact adoption. Because again, if you're putting your data in a silo, it doesn't make it as composable versus storing it on an open data lake like Arweave. So how did we help them? Right, we gave them a few different things. First, we gave them this high throughput uploads through RIO Networks Turbo. That's not just fast uploads, but the data is instantly available. They didn't have to wait for it to be mined, right? Typically on Arweave, it's around 10, 15 minutes for data to get mined. If you have a high throughput system, that's way too long. You want to access that data immediately. They went as far as deploying their own gateway, right, to control their quality of service and to optimize it for their need, right? That gateway is joined on the RIO network, earning RIO rewards, which they're actually able to then use to purchase more data storage. So they're reinvesting that back into their network. They actually also launched their own decentralized flight tracking portal. So again, sites and apps could be deployed onto the permanent cloud and hosted via RNS to really provide a resilient and unstoppable front end for your application. And finally, they're now starting to explore, let's call it an enterprise paid API service leveraging their RAO gateway. Again, they're doing specialized indexing and more specialized services, so they see potential value adds there to serve and sell that data to their own customers. So this has some impacts, right? They've been in testnet and are rolling out to mainnet soon, but their devices are actually tracking planes in real time. You can go to that portal and you can see all of this in action. Around 80,000 aircraft are being tracked, over 10 million data points, and they're storing all this only for about 10 gigs. Only for about $161. So the value now, I think, far outweighs that cost because they're able to access this data resiliently and indefinitely. In testnet, they had a pretty good data availability. Moving on to mainnet, though, they expect to have 99.9% across all of their community deployed antennas. And again, that just shows how the RIO network can really service the needs of a very broad DePIN ecosystem. So really quick, just like what's the playbook for a DePIN? It's kind of straightforward, right? Upload the data. It's step number one. Sure, that part of that might involve making sure it's tagged correctly so you can discover and find it later, but it all starts with just getting the data on the network. Then you can optimize how you access that data. You can use, for example, the Wayfinder protocol or run your own gateway and build your own routing strategies, so maybe you're accessing data from nodes closest to you, or maybe you're accessing data from the nodes that are highest staked because you trust them more. But it's really important to, optimize your access because in the end, you don't want to overwhelm any kind of decentralized network. And finally, they're trying to monetize that data set. And I think this is really interesting, especially as we get into this world of agentic behaviors where it might not just be people trying to access and pay for that data, but agents or other systems now that are trying to access and leverage that, whether it's for training or other needs. And again, you can do this by either creating your own APIs or simply running an RAO gateway and joining the network. So we have various teams now outside of DePIN that are leveraging us, various partners. We invite any of you to check us out. We have grants programs available. Our team is ready to help you integrate. Again, the tooling is very easy, especially easy to feed to Claude or your favorite LLM. But yeah, encourage anyone to check us out, and we would love to give you a hand. And yeah, come build with us. We have a little guide here specific to DePIN if you want to take a look. And we'll be around after this talk and would love to speak with any of you.
Great, thanks so much. A hand for Phil.